Hello, my name is Charlotte Martinson and I'm a volunteer with Alive.
My name is Stacy Johnson and I am a social worker at Bread for the City.
And I'm Susan Pollock and I'm a volunteer with Alive as well.
A food desert is commonly known as an area where there's not a lot of grocery stores or access to fresh fruits or vegetables.
According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, food deserts are areas that lack access to affordable fruits, vegetables, whole grains, low-fat milk, and other foods that make up a full and healthy diet. Randy Smith, a Geographic Information Systems Specialist, defined a food desert in the specific DC area. Within urban areas, food deserts are ones where the walking distance to the nearest fresh food supplier is greater than half a mile. Over 40% of households do not own a vehicle, and the median household income is less than 185% of the federal poverty level for a family of 4.
I think it boils down to money and poverty, and when people are living in poverty and there's no incentive for grocery stores or other stores to come in there, they don't. They choose to go where there are higher concentrations of people who are going to be able to spend more money in their store.
We have a lot of people in Alexandria who can't make ends meet. Rents are so high here that it's often, by the time you paid for rent, by the time you've paid for your access or transportation to your job, often you're cutting short on the end where food is, because that's one of the things that is easiest to cut on. You can't afford not to get to your work. You can't afford not to pay your rent. So that's where it comes in at. And I'd say that's the biggest share of our form of food insecurity in Alexandria.
Some months there may be enough money to put adequate food on the table, but some months the car may have broken down and they can't get to work if they don't fix the car, or an unexpected medical bill, or an increase in rent. So when, there's only so much income that comes into a family, and it has to encompass all needs.
Most of the people who come actually work, and many of them are working full-time, working 2 jobs. It's just making ends meet because you're earning a minimum wage.
One of the barriers to getting food also is transportation. Transportation's expensive, and it takes a lot of time if you're on the bus and have to go across the city.
Maybe there's 1 car per family, and one of the parents has got the car working, while the other parent can't come get the food because it's very difficult to carry that much food on a city bus, for example.
So food security is one of the social determinants of health now. So what that means is there's a lot going on in the health world, in the medical field, in terms of more than just doctors and medicine, but also what else in a person's life impacts their health.
According to dchealth.gov, obesity is a national and local food epidemic. More than half of the adults living in DC are overweight or obese, with rates reaching over 72% in wards 7 and 8.
That area, the rest of DC, is quickly becoming gentrified, and there are lots of markets and lots of groceries and lots of things happening in those other areas, but in east of the river is still, there's still some pretty big food deserts.
People living in the poorest socioeconomic status nationally are 2.5 times more likely to be exposed to fast food than the wealthiest, because urban food insecurity can cause one to depend on unhealthy, non-nutritious food such as fast food and ultra-processed food in order to keep themselves fed. Resorting to cheap, unhealthy food solves the issue of immediate hunger, but can cause nutrient deficiencies and excessive weight gain. If these habits are repeated over time, obesity can occur in these individuals. These actions and habits can be passed through families, especially when the cycle of poverty is not broken, causing generation after generation to become overweight or obese.
Obviously, if you don't have access to enough healthy food and you're not eating enough healthy food, then your health and your body is going to suffer.
The term food security actually came about during the George Bush administration, because we used to actually write on hunger. We used to talk about hunger in America, and they did not like the term because it connoted that there were actually hungry people. So they changed the term to food security and food insecurity. So basically it means hunger. And do we have hunger in Alexandria? And the answer is definitely yes.
A majority of Alexandrian residents are not aware of what a food desert is, or even food security. However, according to Tulane University School of Social Work, 2.3 million Americans live in a food desert.
Do you know what food security is, and if so, could you describe it to us?
What is?
Food security?
Food security, no.
I don't. Okay, so along with that, do you know anything about the term food desert?
Have I heard of the what?
The term food desert?
No.
A lot of times people think hunger, they picture starving people during like a famine overseas, and so no one wants to admit that there are literally starving people in the United States of America. But the fact is that there are a lot of people who don't get enough good food, enough food in volume or enough the right kinds of food and nutrition. So starvation, hunger, and food security is a scale, and we always want to be closer to the positive end of that scale.
Educating the public is one of the most critical parts of addressing the need for healthy and nutritious food. People who feel as if their lives are unaffected by food deserts often have the resources to help the organizations that fight food insecurity.
ALIVE stands for Alexandrians Living Ecumenically, and it's a nonprofit that this year is celebrating its 50th anniversary of service to Alexandria. So ALIVE has a lot of different programs to help provide food to the community, to the people that need it. The largest one that a lot of people are familiar with is what is known as our Last Saturday food distribution.
About 500 families will come to our last Saturday, individuals and families, to receive food.
We have a food pantry at Bread for the City, and a lot of people come there. We're the largest food pantry in DC. And what we are trying to determine is it enough of what we give out? People can come once per month and get food from us.
So what we aim for is for a family of 4 should walk away with about enough food, shelf-stable cans, boxes, and things like that, and some fresh produce and meat to supply them for close to 5 days. That's always the goal. Okay,
225 pounds.
That's a lot of good-looking produce. This produce, by the way, comes to us from the very generous vendors at the Delray Farmers Market, and every Saturday they provide us produce that then we give back out to our community partners and our home deliveries. Last year, ALIVE delivered 430,000 pounds of food into the community. And some of that was purchased, some of that was through a program, a federal program, the USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture, and a lot of it was donated. And the banana boxes that you see behind us here are full of food that has been donated by the people in the community through food drives and direct donations and grocery store patrons and things like that. So what we bring back out to the community comes to us through many different ways, but a large part of it is the generosity of fellow Alexandrians.
This is something that's not going away.
There shouldn't be food pantries.
And will always be needed all over the country.
We shouldn't have to have food pantries. We shouldn't have to have things like food stamps. There shouldn't be food deserts.
And just because we're a fairly high affluent community, you can see even in our really affluent community, there are people who are very much in need.
People should have access to what they need. There should be money for them to be able to get what they need, and they shouldn't have to skip a meal because they don't have money. The easy answer is people need more food and access to better food. The harder question is, how do you do that?